Yet I ask you, is not an alien force already among us?
Mark, Rob, so good to see you both.
Good to see you, Gary.
Great to see you, Gary.
It's been a while. I think the last time we saw each other, you came out to take me to a crop circle, and I took you guys out to the one that had appeared. And then before that, I think we did a kind of interview. You interviewed me, I think, when I was in Mexico back in 21, I think, something like that.
During COVID.
During COVID, that's right. I was very fortunate to be working as a journalist in Mexico City during COVID, because I didn't get locked down. We were allowed to move around in empty streets in Mexico City.
Oh, that's blessing.
It was very eerie. You know how busy Mexico City is, right? To move around in Mexico City with hardly anybody about. It's kind of weird. So we first met in Brazil. I think it was 2017. I was down at a conference with AJ in Porto Alegre, right down in the south of Brazil. And that's when I first met you guys, and you had some great stories to tell. Okay, so you've been on this journey for a very long time, and you've been going around the world. And Rob, I've seen the equipment that you have, and you seem to, have this array of high-tech cameras. That's the sort of signature piece of your documentaries. The front cover of it, like, there's this guy, it's like Close Encounters of the Third Kind, and look at all this kit he's got to catch all the UFOs. What's going on with you guys right now? What's been happening with you most recently? And what direction are you heading in right now?
Well, I guess right now we've got a cool expedition coming up, Gary. It's going to be in Mount Shasta, California, August 10th to 15th. And, for the last 8 years, I don't know if we got into this when we met, but I've been teaching this Mindsight.
No, I don't think we did get into that.
Where you can see without eyes, and, people wear a blindfold, right?
Okay.
And so we're going to be combining that with the UFO stuff. So a lot of people have asked me about that, and I said, okay, let's do it. So with the mindfold, you can train yourself to see without your eyes in real time. Okay, and we're actually been teaching blind people, and they're seeing colors, they're seeing shapes, and it's pretty incredible. It's something that, another thing that humans can do that we've been kept in the dark on, no pun intended there, but we're combining the two. So during the day, we're going to teach Mindsight. It'll be, how many hours a day? It could be 5 or 6 hours a day. We'll teach that. And then, go for supper, whatever. In the evening, Mark has been doing the documentation of our, last 10 years from his point of view, all the filming for the, documentaries and the films. He's going to be putting presentations together for the evening, and there'll be discussions and stuff. People can tell their own stories. And then, once it gets dark, we'll go out sky watching. So one of the reasons I learned about the Mindsight was through sky watching. It was through the UFO circles. A friend of mine, we met, remember Leonie Appelt in Australia, Mark?
That's right.
We had spent time with her and her family in Australia, and we experienced some pretty incredible things. And when we had gotten back from Australia, she texted me this 3-minute video. Now, this is like 8 years ago now. And it showed her grandkids running around the backyard playing hide and go seek with the masks on. But they appeared to know exactly where they were going, and they weren't bothered that they were wearing masks. So I thought it was a joke. Because, Leonie is quite a practical joker also, and quite a sense of humor. And at first I thought it was a joke. And it went on for like 3 minutes, and I thought, but who would go through the process of making a video for 3 minutes? Usually a joke is very short. So I wrote her back, and I said, Leonie, is this a joke, or is this real? Because if it's real, I want to do it. So the rest is history. She hooked us up with a teacher in Canada, started learning. We've been doing this. I've been teaching it online for 7 years.
Really? You haven't told me any of this. I didn't know this. Running around with blindfolds on, and you can see when you forgot to mention this, Rob.
Yeah. I know. Well, we got so involved with the crop circles with you and the UFO stuff, and it's like, we were kind of focused
Wow.
on that, right?
Okay.
So, and we've had like 3 seminars. The last one in Orlando was fantastic in January. We had, 23 or 24 out of the 27 people seeing the room in real time with blindfolds on and with patches on their eyes. But anyway, so we're putting this expedition together, and I've already got a pre-register list. People want to go because the reason that I got into this Mindsight seeing is I thought, well, if this is something we can do blindfolded and we're kind of maybe hooking into other areas or other abilities that we have, maybe it will help out with the UFO stuff.
Okay. How? Yeah, go on.
Here's the thing. We started practicing this and testing, and I started using it with infrared cameras. So I was in a dark room, and I was having cards shown to me, and we were filming it in infrared, and I was getting all the cards in complete darkness. Then we used a thermal camera, and same thing, no light whatsoever, Gary, and I could see what was on the card, okay? And we have proof of it. I can send you some of these videos after, but
Sure.
so the idea was you can see more full spectrum with this. Our eyes are like visible in this wavelength here, but there's the thermal, the heat in the infrared over here.
It's like gamma and X-ray, isn't it? Or
How far can we see using this ability? And therefore, if we're out sky watching, maybe we can see things that cameras can't even see. And maybe that is the case with some people. They've always been able to do this, and we just think they're crazy that they're seeing things that we don't see. So anyway, we're going to do this in Mount Shasta. We're going to teach it during the day, and at nighttime we'll go out and sky watch and apply this ability and just have fun with it.
Rob, you've got one in May as well, yes?
Yeah.
You have a workshop?
Yep, right here in London, Ontario, May 4th to 9th. It's just going to be teaching the Mindsight, from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. for 6 days. And we'll have, people seeing the room and, walking around outside with blindfolds on.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, you got to send me some footage. I need to cut some footage into this and show people what you're talking about because I've never seen it.
It's amazing. It was amazing.
So that was a surprise. You didn't even know that I was going to talk.
I know.
And see, this is right here. VWE.
Vision Without Eyes. VWE. Wow.
And that's the website, visionwithouteyes.com. So
okay.
There you go. So yeah, that's what we're doing in August. So that's pretty cool. And again, the Mindsight only in May here is coming up. We've still got a few spots left for that one. But Gary, there's a ton of stuff we've experienced since we saw you last. I don't know where to start.
Go on, Mark. Tell me some stories. What's been happening to you?
Oh my gosh, man! Because it has been 8 years. This is actually our 10th year, Gary. It's our 10-year anniversary, Rob.
Yep.
We're in our 10th, 11th year, and wow! I mean, I don't know how much you know. That's the thing.
Well, I mean, clear about people running around in blindfolds, seeing stuff. Nothing.
Yeah, you're
what
now.
I'm completely in the dark. Excuse the pun.
Boo Garage, Mark, and tell them what happened.
Yeah. No, honestly, when we came to see you, Gary, like when we came, what was that, 2 summers ago? I believe that was 2 summers ago. We did like a whole kind of like a trifecta. Like we came to the United Kingdom, we came to France, and we did just a couple of days in Spain. We just kind of came in and out. But the most amazing experience that we had that came with a lot of turmoil because Rob and I had a lot of problems, a lot of travel problems getting into France to get together with our contact. I can't remember, like a plane that was supposed to be at a certain time that got rescheduled. Then it took us, I can't remember the exact trajectory, but it took us all over. We were supposed to have 2 nighs. Well, actually 3 nights, and we only ended up having 2 because we got in late. All of Rob's equipment did not arrive.
I remember that because you were showing me like the Apple tags and saying, "Look, I
Yeah.
can see where they are behind the thing," but they're yeah, I remember that.
Unbelievable. Like, and then the first thing that Rob says, which is so true, when everything goes wrong, something's going to go right.
Yeah,
something.
Big time, Gary.
That's like a thing. That's like, and that's happened many times to us, where it's kind of like, oh man, we're not in the right place. We're not at the right time. We're being challenged, in many, many different ways. And we were challenged huge coming into France. And so we're tired, like unbelievably tired. But Rob being Rob, I can be such a wimp. But Rob being Rob says the first night, because it's like, I don't know, 11:30, 11:45, we got to go out. And what am I going to say? Like, no, like we're here, and and we've been hearing a lot about Bugarash, which is called referred to as the UFO garage. Okay, this is online. If you bring up Bugarash, they refer to it as the UFO garage. And even when I went out on my own and did some filming, I found a church, and outside of the church was this plaque, was like a plaque. And on the plaque, it had the mountain, Bugarash, and underneath it, extraterrestrials. So it was right on the plaque outside of the church. So you're like, okay, this is legendary. To take the legend another step, Steven Spielberg, when he was doing Close Encounters of the Third Kind, through his research, he said, I want to film Devil's Tower. It's got to be in Bugarash. So he came there, met the locals. The locals all said, no. We don't want them to go away. We don't want them to go away. And if you come in here with a big film crew, we're not going to get our visitations anymore.
Really? What year is this?
This is 1976, 1977.
Okay.
When he's, so he did Devil's Tower. He did Close Encounters at Devil's Tower. So that's the legend, So we're coming into the area with all this legend surrounding it. And we come there and we get in the car and we're driving around the perimeter of the mountain. And our third companion just said, well, where do you want to go? Like, where do you want to stop? Within seconds, Rob said, right here. We need to be right here. So we pulled over the car, no equipment, got out of the car, and I think it was like 12:45 a.m. So we're really super tired, 12:45 a.m.
Yeah, and suddenly, let me say this, Mark, because Gary, we only gotten to our hotel at 11:30 p.m.
11:30, yeah.
We pull our suitcases into the hotel, and that's when I said, well, let's go out. Since we're here, we only had like that night and the next night because of what happened with the travel, right?
Yeah.
So then we went straight to the mountain, got there at...
Straight.
Yep.
Yeah, no, and it was incredible. Like, we hadn't been there for more than a few minutes, and then suddenly these lights started appearing. And it was very, very strange. You start to think in the way of, is this Marfa? Is this Marfa style, Marfa lights? Is this Hestelin style? Are we seeing a natural phenomenon? This went on for 2 straight hours. And these were not normal lights. Like, some of them were like swimming around the mountain, felt like they were going in the mountain. The one
and you're recording this, right?
We didn't have cameras.
Oh my God! Of course, they got caught. Oh, that's right. I remember you telling me now.
They were filming Montreal, Canada with iPhone. We're using our iPhones to record audio and to do our best. Right? It's the same thing, Gary. It's always the same style.
I know.
It's like, oh, okay, we're not going to be able to prove anything. We've got 3 witnesses, but we're not going to be able to prove it. And then at one point, the one that just made me fall back, it came right over our heads like a triangle, snapped in front of us, sat there for like 5 seconds. It was like a projection. It was like a holographic projection. And it sat there, and I remember going like this, falling back, thinking, where'd this come from? And then it just went whoof, right back out again. And Rob, tell yours. You had a good one too.
Well, I just know that these lights, they weren't like pin lights. It was almost like they were coming from above the clouds and shining on the clouds, but projected into the air, Gary. If you can sort of see
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
They were diffuse lights, but projected into the air in front of us somehow.
Got you. Yeah.
And Mark, remind me of which one to talk about, because it went on for 2 hours.
It went on for 2 hours. But the thing that always gets me is, they were doing different things. Remember, Rob? Like, they would appear and then they would like go to another area. But the biggest thing that I remember, well, the second biggest thing I remember, after it had been on for almost 2 hours, Rob said, well, we're going to stay, right? And I'm like, well, we're not leaving. Like, there's no way. Like, they're putting on a big show. It's a super big show. And if they're going to put on a big show for us, then we stay until they go. And Rob says, okay, that's perfect. We're not going to go anywhere until they go. 10 seconds later, they left.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, literally, right, Rob? 10 seconds. Like, within 10 seconds of Rob saying, "All right, it's a deal. That's what we'll do. We'll stay until they go." And they left at exactly 2:45. So it wasn't like 12:40, because we had it on our phones, time stamped. 12:45 it started. 2:45 it ended.
It was exactly 2 hours, Gary. Exactly 2 hours, and it just went on and on and on. Just all these lights. It was like they were chasing each other and playing, going around to the mountain and doing all these patterns, and it just went on and on. Now, we recorded it all on our iPhones, but they weren't quite bright enough to be picked up in the video of the iPhones. We have all the
you got a sensor the size of a pea, haven't you?
Yeah,
You've got.
Yeah, with my high-tech stuff, I would have gotten everything.
That's the story, isn't it?
Yeah, I know.
It's the story.
That's the story, right?
We should never have been there, Gary. Like, we shouldn't have been there. And if we had been there under normal circumstances, there would have been cameras.
Yeah,
but
and even the spot where we were, it's like our companion said, well, we've got to find a spot. And I just turned my head, and we were right then coming up to like where a road came out to the highway. But it was like triangular areas. There was lots of room for trucks to turn and everything. I said, well, let's go here. And we turned, and that was the spot where this whole show, we were at the centerpiece of this whole show, watching stuff come right over our head. We were just entranced by this light show that was a personal light show just for the three of us for 2 hours solid.
2 hours. Mm-hmm. Okay, there's so much in that. I mean, when you just said that about the light show, that's very close encounters, isn't it?
Totally. And there were no airports within 200 miles, 100 miles.
Yeah.
We were in the in the mountains.
You've also got this issue where, like, if it was 150 years ago, people would say they were seeing fairies with these little lights, right? Because that's the way that they would project the culture, and what was deemed to be paranormal or whatever would be manifesting. Even if it wasn't that, their mind would meet it halfway, and maybe that would be the story they tell. And so historically that sort of fits into this narrative that I've been exploring with people having these kinds of experiences. But there's this whole subjective journey for you, right? So 2 points that come out for me. Number one, and I'll ask this is part 2 of the question, but the first part is like, when you've got all this equipment, right? And the chances of it being held up, and this is this kind of, Heyoka or Joker position, isn't it? Of this paranormal phenomena that so many people report that says, it fucks with you. Right. There's no better way of putting it, right? It will show up just when the camera battery died, or this, and it knows, right? And how does it know? And people feel that sense, and then you've got this intuition of yours, which said, let's stop here, right? And let's go out, right? There's you interacting with it, but like, where does that line cross between what they knew about? Rob, before we came on camera, we were talking about quantum physics, right? Which says, the past and the future and the present kind of like one thing, and time can go backwards. And when we talk about these kinds of experiences, a scientific quantum sort of reality can explain some of these things, which may have known what you were going to do, or there's this paradox to that thinking, right? Or it's interacting with you.
Crazy, Gary. And I got to tell you about another one that happened. We were in Colombia. Remember, Mark?
Oh, you got it. Yeah.
And, we either have the stuff happen on the expedition or it happens to the people that are staying back home that are not on the expeditions, one or the other. So we were on the expedition to Colombia. There wasn't that much that happened there. And then the very last night, I get a phone call from my partner back home here in Antonio. Now, let's back things up about 3 months. For Christmas, we got each other an iPhone, 14 at the time, I guess. And, here in Canada, they're not cheap. They're like, in Canadian, they're like $1,700 now, Canadian. So I went right away and got a, case and screen protector. He didn't get the screen protector for his phone. And I kept saying, well, look, I can run in and get one and get it put on. And he didn't want to be without a phone. So this went on for a few weeks. And we had everybody in the kitchen. We were all sitting around talking, having snacks, whatever. He went to grab his phone off the counter and it dropped onto the tile floor, Gary. Cracked the screen. Like, if you look at the screen, the crack went right across, right? So I grabbed it. I said, don't touch it. If you put it to your ear, you'll cut your ear. I saw that happen to a receptionist one time, right? She answered the phone, but she dropped it and she picked it up and it was cracked and she cut her ear and she was bleeding all over her white medical stuff. But anyway, I grabbed it and I took the case off and I took some packing tape, clear packing tape, and I put across it, trimmed the edges, put it all down, put the case, here you go. So he's using his phone, no problem. You can still operate it through the tape, no problem. But after a while, after a few weeks, the tape starts to peel and it becomes annoying, right? So I said, okay, give me your phone, strip off the tape. I feel the crack. Okay, it's still there. And be careful how you do it because you can slice your finger on that. It's like a razor blade.
Yeah.
Put the tape on again, trimmed it, put the case on. And I think I did it like 3 times. And then Marcus and I went to Colombia. Now, I said, I received a call from him on the last night. And he says, Rob, my phone. I said, yeah. He said, wasn't there a crack on the screen? And I said, yeah. And he said, well, the tape was getting old and I pulled the tape off. There's no crack. I said, well, but Antonio, there was a crack. I felt it. Everybody saw it in the kitchen. And I put the tape on it for that reason. He said, well, there's no crack. It's completely smooth. And I thought, well, that's a time anomaly, I think. Maybe there's timelines here, Gary. There was 2 timelines involved. In the one timeline, he never dropped the phone. In the other timeline, he dropped the phone. So now we have changed timelines. Okay? Because in the timeline we're in now, the phone is fine. But, he can be a practical joker also, all the time. So I thought, I wonder if he got a new phone and he's just having me on here. He's just pulling my leg, right? So when I got back, I went into my email to get the serial number of his phone that I bought him. And I thought maybe he's gotten a new phone and he's just having Mark and I on, right? So it was the same number, same serial number. So the serial number matched as the same phone that I bought him for Christmas. And when I checked, there was no crack. And that crack, I can still see it in my mind today and feel it, how I felt it. It went right across. So there you go. So we
there's this. So if you were talking to a skeptic, they would say, well, he had a new screen, right? Same phone, but he had a new screen, right? Explanation, satisfactory, keeps them in their left brain. This is the way the world works. There's no bigger picture. And I've seen so many people, and that's been the interesting phenomenon to me is how people react to this kind of stuff. And if there's a way out, right, they take it.
Yes,
That doesn't explain a bigger reality that we could potentially be living in. And yet there are some of us, and you guys have had so many experiences that you get this, what Jeffrey Kripal calls the flip, right? You flip and you go, okay, there's a load of shit going on here that I can't explain. We could say maybe this timeline changed, or but stuff happens, right? And there's no explanation under Newtonian physics for this.
I know, and you know the one with the check. We've told you about the one with the check.
You told me that was one of the first stories you told me. Yeah, I remember.
So
crazy stuff.
But anyway, we met you in Brazil. So we did go back to Brazil, and there's a story there, Gary.
Brazil's, that's why I love South America, Rob. I don't know. I don't know if it's the people, because they're open to this stuff more. Do you think that South America, it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
And stuff happens.
Honestly, Gary, and I don't mean to interrupt you, but Rob and I have had the opportunity to go to 6 South American countries. We did Argentina, we did Bolivia, Peru, Brazil, Colombia, and Ecuador. So wide open. Like, I mean, it's almost commonplace. Like to sit in the back of a taxi and to bring this up is to have the taxi driver turn around and say, "Oh yeah, I had this come out," and
normal.
Like it's nothing. You're not even telling him anything that shakes up his world.
They're like,
and also
story I don't know, right?
Exactly, yeah, exactly. And also, like, if you talk about corrupt politicians, they don't have any illusion that they're anything other than corrupt, right? They're just, of course.
Reality. That's just my reality.
So yeah. But in the West, you could be arguing with people that go, no, the government have got our best interests at heart. They're all lovely people that are coming, you're like, So there's this kind of proper reality that goes on in South America, isn't there? Anyway, tell me the story about what happened in Brazil. What happened?
I don't think you're going to believe this one.
Well, I mean, I do have my limits. There are some things, but
this could hit your limit, Gary.
Okay.
There's many witnesses, though, Gary. So
multiple, nine witnesses.
Okay, you've got me intrigued, and I'm sure you got the audience intrigued. Let's go for it. Tell me.
Start, Rob, or do you want to start?
Put all the context around it, Mark.
Yeah, let me give the whole thing.
Okay.
It was the typical of an expedition. It was the last hour of the last night. That's always a thing. That's happened many, many times. We hadn't had any experiences, small things, like coins showing up where we don't think they're going to show up, or, you know what I mean? Like different little things. But we were in Uberada. I think it's called Uberada. And it was the only night that we had a group. We'd gone out the night before. It was just a couple of us, 2 or 3 of us. And this was the night that we had 2 sets of parents. We had 3 children. We had Rob and myself. We had the chief investigator, researcher for Brazil, Fernanda. And we were all at this location. I ended up having to leave to do an interview. Rob was setting up his cameras. And the children, 3 of the children and the mother, decided to go on a walk. They just wanted to go out for a walk into this wooded area.
And so the reason they went for the walk, Gary, is because they had all seen something over in the woods.
All right, okay.
And I put my cameras over there and stuff, and they decided to go check it out. So I was filming them, checking it out.
Yeah.
And do you want me to continue with the story, Mark?
Yeah, no, please, Rob, from your point of view.
Yeah, so they're over there. I'm by myself. They asked if I wanted to come. I mean, I really did, but we were along a farm road. Pardon me. We were just outside the town. Mark had to go into the town there. And there was a dinosaur museum or something in the town. Was it dinosaurs? Mark?
Yeah, like a prehistoric kind of thing, yeah.
But anyway, and I don't know if there's any connection there, but there might be, especially when you hear the rest of the story. So I really wanted to go with them, but I had all this equipment. It's super expensive, and farmers had gone by this road earlier in the evening. I thought, I can't leave my equipment just sitting there. It'll be gone by the time I get back. So I let them go, and all of a sudden, I heard this screaming, like blood-curdling screaming. And they're all running, and I'm catching it all on film with the, infrared, the full spectrum, the visible. And the one kid comes running, and they had seen something, like some kind of a creature. But when they were screaming, I heard two sets of things. I heard what sounded like almost like a dinosaur walking on the ground. I heard that
Loud,
yeah. And almost like the vibrations of it. And I
also, like Jurassic Park kind of.
Yeah. And I also heard the flapping of like.
Really?
Like something very large, Gary. So I was just out from my equipment, and I went running back to my equipment because that sound was coming close, and I thought, I got to protect my equipment. It was like almost like some kind of a big South American bird, what I thought it was, right?
Okay. I thought it's a dragon coming, but I've got to protect my cameras, you know what I mean?
I thought whatever it is coming towards me, I got to protect my equipment. It's going to knock it over.
And
right?
yourself.
And,
Yeah.
and so they all came over saying what they had seen, and I recorded it. And I thought, this is going to be fantastic. It's all recorded on film, all of it. You know, what they saw off in the distance in the woods, like my version of it. It's going to pick up the sounds, these low vibrations on the ground. It's going to pick up the sound of these wings. And then, you know, shortly after that, Mark arrived. Mark, you pick it up from there.
Yeah, this was really interesting for me because I filmed live recording. I just got out of the car, camera rolling. These kids are all like this, just talking, high energy. And they're all reenacting it. They're like boom, 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 boom. Like they're all like doing these sounds of what it was. And the mother is all elevated, and they're talking. And then they say to me, there's this child in the car, like total PTSD.
Traumatized.
Totally traumatized. Totally in shock. I quietly come up to the car because Fernanda is talking to her. And Fernanda instantly, total professional, says, turn your camera on. It's okay. This is live. We have to film this. You know, we have to document it. And I filmed this girl, and that is going to stay in my my heart and soul forever, because I'm filming her, and I'm filming her eyes, and I'm filming her father behind her. And she's not even looking at me. She's looking at Fernanda, because Fernanda is being very comforting and Rob had said as well, it's really important that we ground this out so that she's not traumatized for life. You know, like she's got to know she's safe. She's got to know. They all, Gary, all of them told the same story. And to follow up.
What was the story? What was the story?
This thing was, I don't know, 8-9 feet tall.
Okay.
Big, with big wings, black, no eyes, like a cloak. And that its wingspan came out. They all told that story. And I filmed them all separately.
So what you'd visualized, Rob, and what from the audible thing of the footprints and the flapping correlated with what they said they saw.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then they all drew it, Gary. They all sent me pictures. Fernanda actually videoed them separately, all drawing their pictures. And
you've got that on video, them drawing the pictures.
Yeah, wow. All the pictures are the same. And then I did a presentation in Italy a few months ago. I think it was back in November. And everybody said the same thing. Like, have you guys ever heard of the extraterrestrial Mothman theory? Like this creature that's tall, wings, the whole thing. I would have had a hard time believing it if Rob hadn't said, because kids can have pretty big imaginations, right? I mean, and I'm not discounting legitimacy or discounting the fact that they're all liars. Like, that's not what I'm saying. But when Rob Freeman says, hey, this thing was huge. I heard the wings. I heard the ground thumping. Like, this is not like an ostrich. Because even Fernanda said to the little girl in the car, was it an ostrich? Like, do you think it was an ostrich? And she's like, no, it was grande. You know, like, she's like explaining it as it being large and the wings, like, and when you're filming them, they're not having time to think about it. I was there 15 minutes after it happened. Like, I came out of the car and I just filmed for 45 minutes. So I never stopped. It wasn't like one was talking to another one and saying, oh, that sounds like a really cool story. You know, I'm going to tell the same story. Like, it wasn't like that. They were all in their own separate groups. Like, there was a couple of them, and then there was another one, and then there was Rob with his cameras, and then there was this girl in the car with her dad. And then we got in the car and I filmed all this. It's absolutely ridiculous. All the kids and the parents got in the car with me, and we all went back out to the side road. And they all told the story like they were there, saying, this is where it was. This is what we saw. So they repeated the story without any loss of detail. It wasn't like they changed their story from when they were with Rob and everything at the headquarters base camp. When they were in the car, same story. When they were on the side road, same story. They didn't modify anything.
Yeah, and it reminds me very much of the Arenell School in Zimbabwe?
Well, that's what's coming to my mind. That was just. I mean, the Westall one as well. I've given a presentation on that because those are the two cases that I find very interesting, but involving children who all tell the same story.
But Gary,
and get traumatized.
Here is the crazy thing. I was so excited because I've got, like 7 cameras all recording.
Oh, God.
Very sensitive. And I was so excited to go back to our place. I stayed up late going through everything. There is no sound recorded, no video. Like, it's all recorded, but I don't hear what I heard on the cameras. I don't hear that
on these cameras that could pick a gnat on the back of a fly.
Absolutely.
So
unbelievable.
So once again, it or they are playing with us. It's all harmless.
Yeah.
But
because to tell anybody the story, they would say.
Yeah.
But, and so, okay. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, I heard it. When I heard the screaming, I heard the bird. Like, I thought, it's coming for me because it got louder. I never saw it, but I heard it, both the wings. And I thought, for that slow of sound, they've got to be pretty huge wings, right? Like, the smaller the bird, the faster the wings go. This was slow, like, right?
So I take it, to fill in some of the gaps, I take it that they had a chance encounter with this thing when they walked off into the woods because they thought they saw something, and this thing then took off, and it flew away from them. It flew towards them. It flew over their heads towards you
because it got louder.
But you didn't see it.
I didn't see it. I ran to my equipment to protect it because I thought, whatever this is, it's big and it's going to knock over all my equipment. That's what I thought. So
really? So you were running in the path of something huge to save your cameras.
Yeah. That's accurate. That's accurate.
That takes some cojones, that does, Rob. Most people would be diving in a ditch and go, with a breath out here.
So I don't know. And there's where the cool high strangeness comes in, because we've heard so many stories too in the past where up in the sky you could have 2 people there looking up. The one person sees everything.
Yeah.
The next person sees nothing.
Yep.
So it's messing with our reality somehow.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's common too, isn't it? That is very common. And then you get like 9 people who see exactly the same thing, can describe, And in the case of Ariel School, I think there were 68 children, and the teachers said, like, the way they snaked up here and all told us the same story. There's no way, that they could have. And so, but it's not a UFO experience, is it? Right? This is.
It all seems to be connected. All of this stuff seems to be intertwined.
Exactly.
And you know, whether it's crop circles, whether it's UFOs, whether it's all this cool high strangeness, you know, iPhone screens, duplicate checks, duplicate vouchers, you know, hearing doors close when we're in the middle of a volcano crater and the door didn't close, but two of us heard the sliding door close, right? So I don't know. We've got one more for you in Argentina.
Well, let me just stop you there, because I want to cut into this, and this is where I find this whole subject interesting, because, and I wasn't expecting this to happen in this way, this interview. I thought we were going to be talking about, frankly, fuzzy lights in the sky you've picked up on your cameras, which is so much of what the UFO stuff does, right? I used to wind Jaime up every Sunday. The TV show would come on, right? We'd have a 2-hour special, and I'd be in the kitchen. We had a big TV room, and there's a kitchen off of it, so I smoked cigarettes then. I'd be out there smoking a cigarette and drinking a tequila or something, because it was Sunday evening, we were relaxing, and Jaime would be going, "Gary, you got to come in and see this one. You got to see this." And I go, "Oh God, come on then." I walk in, and I'd go, "It's a fuzzy light in the sky, Jaime," and he'd go, "No!" He'd go crazy. I used to do it to tease him, but because so much of it is, and I used to go, "No, I'm a crop circle guy, right? You can walk in crop circles, you can measure them, people experience things around them." But that's the point I want to make, right? You enter into the paranormal from whatever angle, right? And whether it's UFOs, whether it's crop circles, whether it's near-death experiences, like we mentioned, or ghosts, whatever it is starts interacting with you. It starts messing with you personally, right?
The hitchhiker effect, right?
The hitchhiker effect. And so that's why I like this work of like Jeffrey Kripal and the demonic reality of Patrick Harper that I've been diving into recently. My latest film, I don't know if you've seen my latest film, Philosophy of Crop Circles, Why Crop Circles Matter. But I talk about, the square and the circle and what this stuff means. And it's this square and the circle is this these opposites that we as humans have to find the balance between try and balance the tension between those opposites. And that's what we're dealing with, right? You've got this reality like left-brained, go to work and you count your taxes and you talk and you analyze things like logically and so on and so forth. And you got this right brain that says, no, we step back and look at the bigger picture, right? And there's so much more going on. And so that journey for you guys now, with all of these other things, Mothmen taking off in the woods and stuff like this, and iPhones getting fixed, it's grown. The whole thing's grown for you, isn't it? From frankly fuzzy lights in the sky to what the hell's going on.
And we asked that. That's
right.
A great point, Gary, because we asked for it. I remember those moments where Rob would say, I'm no offense to anything, but I'm getting bored. I'm bored of the lights.
Yeah.
I want more of the other, and that's a request, at some level, call it a conscious request that you're saying to them, we can handle it. We're okay. We've seen the lights, we've seen the Squamish orb come out. We've seen the Cusco craft, all these things that happened in the early years. It seemed like preparation for what could happen in the next, what I'd like to say, the next 10 years. You know what I mean? Like, okay, that's the education. We've been educated at some level. We can handle it. We can, or I had an earthquake, happened in my room. It didn't happen anywhere else in the house. So and that happened in Peru. That happened in Lima. And so you take those little moments and you say, I'm all right. I'm all right. I'm okay. Even when that happened in Brazil, I was like, Rob's telling me about it. He's like this. He's not like this. He's not shaking about it. He's like this. And he's saying, oh, yeah, I heard it. It was big and it was flapping. It was coming at me. And I'm like, are you all right? And he's like, yeah, I'm fine. So I'm thinking, that's good, right? I think that's good.
Yeah, I think it is, and whatever it is seems to respond to how much you can handle, and it stretches you like a good yoga teacher. It goes, you can handle a bit more than that, gorgeousness, and it gives you a little bit more, right? Yeah, and so I like the psychedelics. The psychedelics for me gave me this kind of way to be in myself around the fantastic. They gave me a way to be in my personality, to be kind of like you say, you get used to it and you get nonchalant, kind of like, okay, this stuff happens, stuff like this, it's all right, especially for me, obviously around crop circles and stuff like that. But I've been, in Brazil about these healers, and yeah, it's crazy stuff. But you got another story for me, Rob? Tell me that story, because there's another point I want to make on this, and it's this bigger picture thing that I'm always trying to drive at with it. But go for the third story.
The one in Argentina, Mark, on the last night.
Yeah, last night, last hour.
We went up on the mountain. What is it called?
Capilla del Monte. Capilla del Monte. Capiche del Monte. Yeah, amazing. Last hour, last day, and we're there with someone who's very prolific in the UFO world, and all the cameras are set up, and suddenly 45-minute light show. Another show where lights are appearing, disappearing, coming in, coming out, and very much like Bugarash. For me, it felt like a compliment to what we had experienced in Bugarash. It's like, okay, now they know that they can kind of come out at a certain time, do different things. We filmed all of that. How many times? Is 50 or 60?
We do have that.
Yeah, we have footage of that. We have a lot of footage of that. 50 or 60 different shots where these lights would come out, disappear, come in, come out. Incredible.
Now the interesting thing about that one is again, we said something about, well, we got to get going soon. Oh, because we were up where there was a restaurant and a museum or something up there, and they were already closed, but we had been given permission to stay to something like 10:30, and they said we have to be gone by 10:30. And I looked, and I think it was something like 10:15. I said, Mark, we're going to have to go soon. And literally, within a minute or two of that, the light show was over.
Everything gone.
Well, we did film it all, Gary, and I sent the stuff to Dave Palachuk, our friend who, used to be the executive director of MUFON Canada. Now he's director emeritus, or whatever you call it. And he used to be the chief investigator, and he still investigates. I sent him all the footage. And when we were filming, we've got the powerful lasers, and I always tell everybody, never point the laser at any of these lights. You don't know if maybe it is a far-off airliner, a commercial flight or something, and you're going to blind the pilot. So just to be safe, and even if it is an ET craft, maybe you're going to blind the ET pilots. Like, just don't do that. Draw circles around it to get my attention so I know where to point the camera and zoom in and all this stuff. So, but we had people, there was a little bit of a language barrier there. We were in Argentina. And apparently some of our folks did shine the lasers right at these objects. Okay? Now, I wasn't happy about that because I saw that in the footage afterwards. Like, we don't want to be doing that. However, Dave was happy that inadvertently happened. He started using his, engineering and technical skills, and he zoomed in on this stuff, and he saw that the laser light was bent around these objects.
Really?
Okay? So there's proof. And now him and his scientific people have written these papers that have been published now, and there's a name for this. And, I'm not that technical, so I just want to experience this stuff and document it. But we've actually filmed laser light bending around these objects now, inadvertently. Okay, and it proves it's something what's the name of it? I'll have to get you the name of this.
Okay, yeah, give me the name of it.
Proves now several theories. And
how interesting.
I know. So, they weren't supposed to shine the laser at it. They did inadvertently, got it to Dave, and he's found that the laser light has bent around. So it
bent around it.
That these lights, these crafts are they're, bending gravity.
Well, yeah, gravity. This is the thing, isn't it? Gravity will bend light. So there's some issue that they've got. How interesting. So the point I wanted to make about all of these experiences, because it comes back to our consciousness, doesn't it? When we're having these subjective experiences, and I mentioned to you before, I think before we came on camera, that what I'm finding interesting in my research at the moment is that, you know, quantum physics, 100 years, science says, yeah, you know, that's happening with the, but the humanities haven't caught up for us to experience these things subjectively. We haven't got a language, we haven't got a way to think impossibly, as Jeffrey Kripal puts it in the latest cover of his book that I'm reading, right? How to think impossibly about this reality that doesn't conform to the rules, right? So a guy called Tom Campbell gave an interview on Joe Rogan recently. Did you watch it?
No, yeah? Tom Campbell. He knows all about the blindfold seeing as well.
Does he?
He's all in.
Does he?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I reached out to him to come on the show, but he very kindly responded to me. He's just got so much on at the moment, and you know, it'd be lovely for me to get him on. It'd be a bit of a coup, but you know, you got to reach out to these people because I just respect his work so much from what I saw on Rogan as well, and it just fits in with some of the stuff I've picked up along the way about the anthropic principle and this participatory aspect to us in reality, in consciousness. You know, this flip of consciousness being the basis, and that material reality is built on consciousness rather than consciousness just randomly emerging from material reality that randomly accidentally went together. But I like his idea about the fact that we're evolving, that we are a data set as humans, and that we get given our own independent thoughts and experiences to experience reality, and the reflections that we have, the experiences we have, the responses we have emotionally and psychologically and so on, get fed back into the larger matrix as it then thinks about its way to move forward and evolve, okay? And the recent thing with the telepathy tapes that I've been hosting is because this revelation, I don't know how familiar you are with what's going on with the telepathy tapes. Yeah. These autistic children that are proving 100% accurately with science, with good science that's being done as well, and more science is going to be done now, to say that, you know, telepathy is real, okay? And beyond that, do you think that this, whatever it is, that gently enables us to realize that we're part of something bigger, because we've been kind of locked with a cultural paradigm in thinking that it's all about physics is all about bridges, and that the rules of that can't be broken? Do you think that this is a part of our greater evolution, that we as a species are kind of like moving forward, and this could be a part of the bigger picture? How do you feel about that?
I think it has to be, Gary. I mean, there's more and more things being revealed to us, you know, on many different levels. And we're definitely being prepared. There's no doubt about it. And that's all I can really say, because go ahead, Mark.
I agree. No, I agree with you, Rob. And I don't like to use like cliche style words or anything like that. But when I think of vision without eyes, when I think of the work that Rob's been doing for the last several years, this is a buried ability. You know, like we are programmed, and again, cliche style word, but we are programmed young to not ignore, but we're taken in a direction. Like look at the logo that you have for your program, the sheep.
Yes.
Right? The sheep. You know, because that's kind of what it is, right? I mean, that's what we're talking about. I think that's what we're talking about. We've been talking about it for 8 years. You know, knowing you, Gary, is it's like, okay, you're it's like this. You got the blinders on. You're the sheep. You're following the other sheep. You're not thinking about your special abilities. You're not thinking about vision without eyes. You're not thinking about telepathy. You've been shut down. But how long can that happen? I mean, eventually you're going to have these people step out that say, I'm going to teach a course about vision without eyes. You come on out, you take the course, you tell me. He's got an 85% success rate. Am I right, Rob?
Yeah. And I got to mention this too about the telepathy tapes. One of the gals who, you know, she was in the second seminar, Adalia Burgoyne, she opened right up fantastically. And of course, she also now came to Orlando to help me teach it. As you know, she's a demonstrator, and unbelievable how she can see with the mask and with patches, and even, you know, behind her and in through closets, really? Everything else. Her daughter is autistic. Her and her daughter are involved in that project with the telepathy tapes.
Fantastic.
So, I've heard about it from the inside.
Right.
And Dahlia tells me regularly, she communicates with her autistic daughter's nonverbal. So she communicates with her autistic daughter telepathically. And when we were at the first training where Dahlia learned, her daughter was literally there telepathically. And, when her mother got home, the daughter told her all these things. It's nonverbal, but told her all the things that she did. So, and her daughter can see without eyes also with the blindfold on. So it's all coming together, Gary. It's all connected.
Let me ask you, Gary, like, why? It's not even the why. Like, to me, it's not like, do we have this ability or that ability? Why do you think it's suppressed? Why do you think that society doesn't want us to talk about this? Like, why is it taboo?
It's a great question. I mean, I've explored it with a couple of guests. I think there's an element of the heretical with regards to religion. I think these things were suppressed when the Christian church came to, took over the pagans and built the churches on the sites of the pagans and suppressed and turned and created this duality between the angels and the demons. Whereas historically, if you look back, according to Jeffrey Kripal again, who I mentioned quite often, but he's done so much research into this, mystical experiences, which, by the way, mystical experiences is the way that quantum physicists try to explain what they're experiencing with their experiments on quantum physics. They go to the mystical experiences, and you find Newton and all these other people were involved in alchemy and all that stuff. So it wasn't that out of the way. But I digress. This issue of alchemy and reality being, very mystical has been around for a very long time, and it's a short period of history that we've been kind of closed down because the whatever it is that presents itself to us as a UFO or a fairy or a chupacabra or whatever can be bad or good. It can do things to us that we perceive as negative or we perceive as positive. They call it the shamanic assault, right? When you kind of get your life ripped apart because reality steps up and says, yeah, it's not what you thought, mate. We're taking you apart and putting you back together again. And so that's been written into myth. And so I think there's an element of that. I think there's a large element of control. It suits this elite that used to be the subject of conspiracies, but people know now that the massive transfer of wealth that's been happening of late, and there are plans for the masses to be kind of like put into a digital totalitarianism because it serves, as any empire has served, the few. The many have been serving the few as sort of enslaved, really, whether as slaves or whether as wage slaves or now as debt slaves, and then in some other form of slavery. And it doesn't serve them to educate us or educate the masses about reality as a whole. That's the sort of stuff that you get in Shakespeare or you get in higher literature that's talked about and pontificated about the elites. Right? So I think there's an element of control by the people that run society in many ways that choose to keep this out because it's always kind of censored out. It's always, and it's done in a way where they get our own neighbours, our wives, our husbands, our friends to ridicule us if we say we've experienced something. So you're scared to talk about it, right? It's insidious. When I gave a presentation about Westall, the children at Westall in 1966 compared to the Ariel School, the one big difference, the point I made, was that when the Ariel School happened, the Men in Black showed up really quick. Right, and they shut everybody down. They took camera film off all the reporters that were there. They put all the children in their classrooms while made the teachers parade up and down. They called the children in and said, "There's no such thing as aliens. You're not allowed to talk about it." They came down on these kids, 12-and-a-half-year-old kids, very heavily. By 1998 or whatever it was when the Ariel School happened, they didn't care. They let the professor from Harvard turn up, John Mack, and interview them, and because by then, any mention of aliens had been completely shut down culturally in the mindset of people so that they would respond negatively towards people and say, "Oh, you're crazy." So someone's done that, right? That's anyone who studied. I studied, at University of Language and Communication. You know about propaganda. You know about how to change the mind, public relations, Edward Bernays, to change the attitudes of people the way you want them to be. We saw that recently with the pandemic, right? With the attitudes towards vaccination, the attitudes towards masks. No real debate was allowed to be had that was intelligent. It was all shut down. And so I'll finish on this. Whenever you see, there's a guy called Chase Hughes, I think his name is. He's an ex-guy that worked as a psyops specialist, trained psyops operations. He said, whenever you get something that if you mention it, you get shut down, it's a psyop. If you're not allowed to talk about it, you're not allowed to present data, you're not allowed to present facts. We have got this kind of, Ian McGilchrist gave an interview recently where he said, the fact that we've all been pushed into our left brain, which rules the heart, right? Which just is this logical, linear, not bigger picture thing, is the end of culture. It's the end of civilization, he said, right? It's because we're all locked now into this, and when data gets presented to intellectuals, professors, they reject it because they're so locked into this fear of. So long answer to your question, Mark, but yeah, that's my kind of...
It's an excellent answer because I think there are a lot of levels to it. I think there are a lot of layers. Like, I don't like to use words that I don't know a lot about, but when they think about the superhuman, they call it the superhuman mind, like you said, Rob, too, like the 10% that we use, maybe 15% now, I don't know. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's it. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Because that's what I'm reading. I'm reading these different books about the superhuman, taking the evolution of the mind, the evolution of consciousness, the right brain, left brain. Rob's introduced a lot of that to me too. So I'm doing more reading about Mindsight and different things. And yeah, it's almost like evolution is scary. Like, what a scary thing. Like, how are you going to be a sheep? Like, how are we going to control you if you unlock parts of your brain or your mind that are going to make you think beyond what we want you to think?
And I would say, too, Mark and Gary, that, with all of this AI stuff coming in now, we're going to have to unlock these superhuman abilities if we're ever going to stay on top of it, because it's going to pass us and leave us in the ditch. It's going to enslave us. And the only way, our brain itself cannot be more powerful than this powerful AI that's coming. But all of these superhuman abilities can. Like, whether it's seeing blindfolded or being able to see into the future, or, there's many other abilities that are all connected. We're now going to have to really light them up, Gary, if we're going to overcome the crazy stuff that is about to come.
Yeah, I think I like Crocodile Dundee's phrase. When the journalist asked him the question about what do you think about the political struggle between the Aborigines and the Australian government, he went, well, I think it's like fleas arguing over who owns the dog. I think
True.
It's that's us, right? These people, they think they can do whatever they're going to do with AI, and it's fantastic. I think it can serve humanity. I lived next door to a guy who's for years was involved in AI, and I got the he was going to me, it's coming. I'll tell you, it's coming. I'm 5 years ahead of what's out there right now, and this is what's happening. He was very careful with what he told me in lots of ways, but I knew this was coming with AI. But I think consciousness is primary. I think evolution is such a big force that it's the fleas arguing over who owns the dog, right? So evolution's coming. Evolution's been happening all the time. We just think we're just plodding along and everything stays the same. But this driving force that is bringing forward these abilities, these what we would call paranormal things, is knocking at our door now, right? And so that brings me to the last point I wanted to make about all of this, because it's come up with my other guests. There is a growing number of people who believe that there's a crossroads coming, and that those that are open to compassion, Tom Campbell says this, right? Because it's a low entropy state to be compassionate, to be cooperative, to be forgiving, to be, loving, right? It's low entropy. That's the nature of the universe, is to work on a low entropic state. A high entropic state is greed, selfishness, small-mindedness, closed-mindedness, right? So there's people who are saying, look, if we're evolving and we're being gently offered a choice, right? Reality is not what you thought it was. We know you, because I've found that the crop circles are so loving, are so caring that they'll let you off if you can't handle it. You know what I mean? It's like, and a lot of this other paranormal stuff does, right? It gives you a way out. So we're being offered the choice to evolve. Those who don't evolve, some people believe that they're going to kind of phase out, and there'll be two realities, that it will crossroads, right? What do you think about that?
I have no idea, Gary. All I know is what we experience, and the experiences are ramping up. So it may very well be heading towards that. We're going to find out.
We're going to find out.
Yeah, and for me, I've always wondered if it's like, and again, it's not like, oh, I'm the chosen one. It's nothing like that. But you wonder if there's a selective kind of process, when it comes to people that are introduced to this. I remember your story. Like, you take me right back to 2017 when I did my first interview with you, and you talked about the defining moment that you had, because you were a lawyer, correct? You were a lawyer, and you had, it's almost like they said, okay, we have to present this experience to him, because he's going to take his mind, he's going to take his analytical thinking, because I remember your presentations and they were awesome, because you talk like a crop circle guy, no offense. You talk like a lawyer. You were like, no, look here's my evidence. Okay, here's my evidence. And if I came into a courtroom and I had this evidence, and I laid this evidence out, you just replace crop circles with a murder case, and if I did this, then this would be the understanding that you would have. Put your own brain to it.
Yeah.
And so I wonder, and I don't know if this is answering your question at all, but it's something I really wanted to state. Something I always respected about you, and I still do, is the fact that you're the only one who could have done that. Wow. Like, you're the only one who could have said, okay, no, look I have all these skills. These are my skills. This is my skill set. I say the same thing about Rob. I go all the way back to when Rob was a child, and he had his experience with a UFO and started to invent things and started to think a certain kind of way. He had his own certain kind of process of doing things. And it's almost like, well, the evolution, if they're looking at our evolution, I say if they're looking at our evolution and they're saying, okay, the three of these guys are talking right now, let's see what they have to say. We've got three people who have dedicated a significant amount of their life to unwrapping it, understanding it. And then maybe we take our combined knowledge and we give it to the next generation. Well, that's cool. That would be kind of, that's an important part of evolution. Again, I don't know if that answers anything, but it feels important.
It's when you first get involved in these things. I mean, the coincidences of seeing, like, for example, I was like a paralegal, right? That's how I worked. I wasn't like a guy that stood up in court and made these big cases. I worked for a law firm that was a paralegal, but I did that for a number of years. I worked in criminal and conveyancing, like the house purchasing, with the legal work when you purchase the house, right? But I would have these conversations with my mentor, the guy Laurie Avardis. We're still friends, right? He was the partner that I worked under, and he taught me how to think like a lawyer. He taught me how to look at, and so did the senior partner, Michael Kay, the guy that owned the firm. They would sit and talk to me, and so it developed my mind. Then I ran a private investigation agency. And so that was all about like gathering evidence and looking at, what you had to sift out and stuff like that. And then obviously as the years went by, you learn about logical fallacies. You learn about how people make arguments with words. And I got very interested in language and communication and how that happens and how our minds. So yeah, a lot of that sort of fitted in. But when you have the paranormal experience, you get this ego battle then with this, I'm the chosen one. I'm the person that's, been put forward to this. And that's, that's when you're on a knife edge, because it's very dangerous, isn't it? And so the humility comes about when you realize, I think, or you come to realize that if consciousness is that we all are one,
Absolutely.
and we're just aspects, little like waves on the ocean of this oneness, right? We've got our own little, and I think everybody's lives are incredible in many ways, and just different stories, right? There's this phrase in a book that I love that my teacher gave me many years ago, and it says, it's not about having a grand plan. It's about being. It's not about doing something. It's about being who you are. Well, who I am is a collection of all those experiences from when I was born and all the things that made an influence on me that put me in a place which you would have never predicted if you looked at the beginning of the story. And it's the same for all of us. That's the fantastic aspect to life. If we all look at our own stories, we think, how the hell did we get here? No one would ever believe I came from there and I'm now here. I love that. That's it's just a wow factor for me for life. And so, yeah, I went on those early days, like, oh God, I've been chosen to do this. And you think I've got a big responsibility for a message. It's all the ego death, I think. Now when I look at it. Sure. Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? The journey it takes you on.
Absolutely.
I think I say that because I sense you guys have been through that and been down that road. You know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yes, sir. Yeah. You kind of go like this all the time.
Yeah.
And I mean, the big thing that I've learned, Gary, is that the everyday reality that most of us experience is not really reality at all. Because all the things that we've experienced in our travels around the world, that really is what is in the normal world.
Yes, that's it.
All the people that are living in cities in their own home going to work, most of them don't experience all of those things that we have. And we're no different or special than anybody else, but out and about, we've seen the real things of the real world. But the average everyday Joe and Jane would say, no, that's not real.
And you just bring up a very relevant point, I think, is because habits. Rupert Sheldrake talks about the morphic resonance field, morphic fields, right? We build habits. Everything's threatened around habits. So someone is locked into their habits, daily work, daily grind, blah, blah, blah. They don't, my teacher would say, their will, that their spirit doesn't get a chance to flex itself into reality because it's stuck in this track, like the cart ruts in Malta, right? But when you break a routine, when you break a habit, when you do something different, you just do something spontaneous, you invite the magic in. And it's true, isn't it? If you go to I remember when I went to my first festival, I'd never been to a festival. I was 30 years of age. I'd never been to a festival before. And my teacher took me to a festival. And I said, why have you brought me here? And he said, because it's in places like this that magic can happen, because magic comes from human beings together and having their spirits alive and open. And in a festival, people interact differently. The rules are different. There's people who've been to India. There's people who are telling stories about just coming back from from doing a meditation retreat. There's people talking about Buddhism. And it opens stuff up, that opens up your mind, and then coincidences happen, and they bloody do when human beings get together. So for me, it's the human element. Always comes back to that.
Human experience.
And I've said this to you, I think, before in one of my stories. It's for me now, the fantastic, it really is. I hate to say this because it sounds so bloody cliche, but the birds singing, the flowers, spring coming, the blossom coming out on the trees, just that's the wow for me. It really is. Every time it came, the sunset tonight, I know it sounds bloody cheesy, but I don't need to see the paranormal anymore. I know it's there. And the whole thing is bloody paranormal, really. The fact that we're here is paranormal. It's the chances against it are just like, do you know what I mean?
I like that.
Guys, what's happening next for you? What's in the pipeline? So you're down in Colombia, Mark. You got in Canada. Are you recently in Italy? Did you meet up with Antonio, by the way?
I tried very hard. I did. I messaged him a few times, and he was quite busy. But I'm hoping again in the future.
He messaged me and said, I haven't heard from you. He said because he was.
I did. I messaged him. I really wanted to see him when I was flying out because I thought, I'm coming back. But it didn't. It didn't schedule.
That's a shame. Those people, I mean, Giorgio Bongiovanni and Antonio down in Italy, though, you know, I've known them for a number of years. They got some weird stuff going on with those guys.
Oh, we've had some experiences in Italy. We've seen things. Rob and I have had. We've been. It was third time for me, 2 times for Rob, but it was the third time for me, and they're doing great work in Italy. They are. April 10th is a big meeting, Rob. On April 10th, I'm talking to some more people in Italy that absolutely really appreciate the work that we've done, because we've had a couple of expeditions to Italy into the mountains, and we've, you know, interviewed and documented some pretty incredible things. So let's hope. Let's hope.
Fingers crossed.
So you got the retreat going on in Mount Shasta. When's that happening?
That's August 10th to 15th. That's the combo event, Gary, where it's Mindsight training during the day, and then we will use that in the evening, Skywatch.
Wow.
And part of that is, you know, Mark with his films, he'll, you know, have some short films all cut together and show our experiences visually that way, and, you know, Q&As and storytelling and stuff. So it's a full event.
Awesome.
And of course, you know, the one coming up right here, the Mindsight training, May 4th to 9th, right here in London, Ontario. And
have you got websites for that? Can you give me links for that? I can put them in the description.
Yeah. Visionwithouteyes.com, and I can send you all the links as well. So
that'd be fantastic.
We're excited about all this stuff.
And Mark, finally, the encounters documentaries and stuff that you've done over the years. Where are you with that now? Is that
super excited? We're finished. Well, very close to finishing Encounters Italy, but the crown jewel is Encounters Latin America. And there are, like, in addition to everything showing up on the Facebook for UFO World Explorer, constant videos that are still coming out on the UFO World Explorer YouTube. There's now 2 Facebook pages for the Encounters series. There's Encounters, and then there's Encounters Expeditions Events, you know, which is where Mount Shasta is going to come. Just it's like a community, created it more like a community.
okay?
So now it's Encounters Latin America is 6 countries, and everything will be ready for this summer. So it's exciting. People that come to the Mount Shasta event will see things that no one in the world has seen yet. You know, from the Brazil experience to, you know, what we experienced in Argentina and all the other different places. It's exclusive. That's what I like to say.
Fantastic.
Exclusive experience. Yeah.
Exclusive. Well, send me links to all of those, please, Mark, so that I can put the, you know, the Facebook pages where people can get hold of you guys.
Thank you, sir.
It's been so good to catch up with you guys again. Always a pleasure.
As always, we could go on for hours with all this.
We could indeed. But I don't want to put people off. We're at 1 hour and 20, so let's. I think we've given the people a great experience with this chat. So thanks so much for joining me, guys. I hope we can catch up again soon.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us, Gary.